So today's video is going to be me sharing 5 lessons learned as it relates to homeschooling during the early years. So just to lay the foundation for this video, we have 4 boys, 8 years old, 4 years old, 2 years old, and a newborn. None of our kids have ever been to public school unless you want to count daycare. Our oldest was the only one who attended daycare at any point. But yeah, none of them have ever been to public school. And our 8 and our 4-year-olds are the only 2 that I consider really being homeschooled at this point, as far as like actual lessons and things like that. My 2-year-old, I'm still am letting him do his thing, and we sprinkle in some intentional education, if you want to call it that. And then my newborn is of course just twiddling his thumbs. So I'm sharing that just so you know where I'm coming from as I share these lessons learned in today's video. So I will start by saying that my mental approach to homeschool, I think I was more in a place of just kind of thinking of things as like cutthroat. So I wasn't really prepared, nor did I anticipate all the twists and turns that I was going to come across. So there were a lot of big lessons that I learned within that first year of homeschooling. Actually, I should say the first 2 years of homeschooling, at least as it applies to some of these. So first lesson was that not every resource has to be beautiful and fun looking. As for my kids, they could care less about how something looks. They could care less if they have their grammar lesson in the primary colors and it's all like beautifully laid out versus a black and white worksheet. They just don't. I was really, I guess you could say, kind of wasting my energy trying to pull together all of these beautifully crafted resources and trying to really make every little thing fun. This isn't to like make anybody feel like they can't go out and look for those things, but this is going on our 5th year of homeschooling. After homeschooling just even for this short period of time, I have noticed, I don't know if it's a social media thing or if it's just a thing in homeschooling in general, because now we have all of these resources that homeschoolers didn't used to have. But I do feel like there's an importance placed on the look of educational resources a little bit more than like the value and the substance of that resource. For us personally, I learned that I could bring fun into our homeschool through experiences way better than I could through educational resources. So I place my energy in making sure that when we take field trips, they are fun field trips, or when we have like breaks from school and I'm trying to make it like an art week or a science week or something like that, that I make those things fun and not our like everyday educational resources and curriculum. It's just, I found that I wasn't getting the substance from those beautiful curriculums and unit studies and things like that that I was hoping for. I was getting the aesthetic, but not the value and the substance. Now this one, I'm going to say absolutely apply to my oldest child, but it does not apply to my second. So this lesson was, don't start formal sit down work too early. So, okay, for our boys, I'm gonna say that they both kind of hit the ground running as far as their interest in wanting to learn. But it looked very different, or it has looked very different for both of them. So with my oldest, I went straight traditional, tried to have him sit down at the table and pull out workbooks, and we go through the motions every day with that. It was a fail. It really was. Every day was in tears, whether it be from him or myself. And it was not the homeschool that I wanted to shape. So I did away with that, and I realized that I honestly just started him too early with formal sit down work. So I did have to dial back and just have a couple weeks, and we just take a break and just let him be, because it was too much. He wanted to learn. He was interested in learning, but not in the way that I was presenting things. And more importantly, he was interested in learning, but something specific. He was interested in learning about animals and how the wildlife is, how everything in nature is. He was interested in learning about a specific subject. And that's where I think I kind of went wrong, is because he was showing interest in a specific topic, I took that and ran with it as him being interested in wanting to start school, like formal sit-down work type school. So I will say that was a big lesson learned. Now for our 4-year-old, who is our second oldest, I actually wanted to start out slower with him because I realized I made that mistake with my oldest. However, he's on the other end of the spectrum. He wants to do book lessons and workbooks. He wants, his interests are just a little bit broader. And so I have had to take different approaches when it comes to how early I start our kids with school. And I think that's one of those things you just have to observe and gauge where your child is. Are they ready to start formal lessons? Or are they just interested heavily on like one subject in particular, or just like one umbrella of topics? So that was definitely a lesson learned. Don't start them too early with formal sit-down lessons if they aren't truly ready for it. I'm just gonna throw this out there as well. Say you have like a little bit older kid, like they're like 5 or 6 years old, and they're still not wanting to do like that formal sit down type lesson work, but they are showing like an interest in something. Maybe do a little research on narration and try to see how you can work with that, and do things orally, because I have learned that as well. Not everything has to be sit down out of a textbook, out of a workbook, and look, like so traditional. Next lesson, don't try to turn everything into a formal learning experience. Let the learning happen naturally. Let them realize things on their own. Of course, discuss, point things out here and there, but to take like fun experiences and kind of turn them around to be like this formal lesson definitely is something that I learned very quickly. And this one was a big one as well. Their level of mastery of different concepts is going to look different at each stage of development. So I completely worried myself silly in the first year or two of homeschool when it came to like reading and even math for my oldest, and it turned out that he was actually above grade level. But yeah, I worried myself, not understanding that his level of mastery was just going to look different. Just because he had a concept introduced that school year doesn't mean that he's going to end the school year with complete mastery of that concept. For instance, like if he'd been introduced to verbs, that doesn't mean by the end of the school year he's gonna have mastered, and memorize all helping verbs and linking verbs and know what they all do and their purpose and things like that. So I had my expectations way too high when we first started at homeschooling, and I'm really glad that I kept learning and kept researching here and there, and just learned about different methods and things like that, because it really did help me to set more realistic expectations as it related to my child as an individual and who I was teaching. And lastly, don't expect what you start with and how you start will be the way that things will just keep going. Because I can tell you that first year of homeschooling, I thought I hit the jackpot, and I thought that the curriculum we had and were using was going to be it for a couple of years at least. And we actually, now what we do and use for homeschooling looks like a complete 360 from how we started. So I think that just honestly speaks to, and making sure that we, if we see that something is not working, do the legwork, do the research if need be, try different methods if that needs to be the case, and figure out what's going to work better and then hopefully the best for them. So that was the thing with us when we started homeschooling. I thought, you know, that curriculum was golden, and I tried to stick with it because I was just like, it took me so long to even find this curriculum, and it's not really working. So yeah, back to the drawing board. And to be honest, I was even happier when I started researching and I found different resources and things like that for us to use, things that have worked much, much better. Last lesson was, don't expect how and what you start with will be what will be the case moving forward. Because I have to say, even for our 4-year-old who is I'm just now am starting him out with like book work, but it's more so like oral lessons right now. Even with him, I didn't start that way with my oldest. What I'm using for my 4-year-old is completely different from what I started with our oldest. So yeah, even that can look different on a per child basis. And like I said, I've only been homeschooling. This will be our 5th year, and we have 4 kids total. So these are just lessons learned as of now, like as it relates to just, you know, this short time frame. So who's to say what this list could possibly look like by the time, you know, our homeschool journey is over, when we're done homeschooling our kids, because we are planning on doing this for the long haul for all of them. Now I feel like I am rambling or going down a rabbit trail. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to hit the thumbs up. And thank you so much for watching.